Shoes. Recorded live.
Hello, everybody. This is the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. This is the August 16th edition, 2013, and our special guest is Gerald G. Haynes. I'm your host, William Hayashi. And Gerald is mostly a filmmaker, I would guess. That's what I've got here. If you want to check out his website while we're chatting and talking, for those of you who are in our chat room, also feel free to drop in questions you might have for Gerald. But his website is www. Let's see, what do I have here? Haynes Entertainment, Haynes, entertainment.com. And take a look at his work. And Gerald is coming to us from L.A. tonight. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, William. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Glad to have you here.
It's good to be here.
Hello, Wolfgang. Hello, William.
Yes.
This is Winston. I'm just saying hello to you, that's all.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Winston. So anyway, Gerald, are you an original West Coaster?
Actually, my roots start off in New York, Long Island, New York. That's where I was born. I came out here when I was about 5 years old, and been on the West Coast ever since. Recently, I've been to New York several times in the last 5 years. So,
and did you move there for work, or did you just gravitate to that area because you just love the air?
My mom loved the air, so she drugged me along. And my grandma, my grandpa, my uncle, my mom, and myself, we came out to California about 1968.
Mm-hmm.
A couple other families. My grandmother and her two sisters, they brought their families out. I guess they had they wanted to go west, and so 3 families headed out west within a 2-year period. So that's how I got out here to the West Coast.
Well, you definitely can't beat the weather, compared to New York and Chicago.
No, it's pretty good out here. I don't want to brag too much and make those on the East Coast kind of mad at me, but it's really nice right now. I'm looking at a nice blue sky and nice breeze coming through the window. So it's all good.
All right, so you started out in New York, and I'm sorry I missed it. What about? How old were you when you left?
I was like 5 years old.
Okay, so for all practical purposes, you're kind of. I would imagine that your memories of New York, unless going back, are not that strong.
No, you're probably right. I remember some snow, and it's not that it's kind of fleeting.
Mhm. And so going to school, you did all your schooling out there in LA?
Yes.
And so as a filmmaker, let me ask you this: how old were you? When did you start getting a bug about films? Because we all go to films. As we grow up, we watch them on TV and things like that. When do you think was the threshold age that you started thinking about? Well, maybe I could do this.
It's funny, I didn't think about it until my late 20s. I was trying to decide whether I should get to the real estate game or be a filmmaker. My uncle, my mother's brother, was very business-minded, and he wanted me to take a career in business. So I tried the economics and algebra and business law and all that kind of stuff, and I just didn't cut it, and it showed on my report card. So I said maybe it's best I be a filmmaker, be a writer. So that's how I got into writing. I had done writing before as a youth, like in high school. I was in journalism for a little time, and coming up as a kid, I would write. I love comic books. I got interested in comic books around 12 years old, 13 years old. My first comic book was Captain America with the Falcon. And that kind of started things off as far as the writing part of my life. And but it wasn't until my late 20s where I made a decision to be a filmmaker.
And what turned you that way?
Just the creative. All the creativity. Real estate seemed kind of boring. There was a lot of money that could be involved with it, but it didn't fascinate me like telling a good story and having people look at the story and get something out of that story. So that's why I gravitated to filmmaking and writing.
So, well, okay, so you did some writing, you took the journalism, you started out with some creative writing, you got some ideas from comics. I mean, how did you manage? I mean, once you made up your mind, what was the next step? I mean, so you're sitting there and you're saying, well, real estate is not for me. I'm going to get into filmmaking. So what'd you do next?
Basically, I decided to go to school and get a degree. I went to West LA for 4.5 years, and at LA I transferred over to USC, University of Southern California, film school. And that's how I got started. I just said to myself, I need to do something with my life. At the time, I was, coming up on 30 years old. I didn't have a degree. I didn't have anything substantial, and I felt like I need to do something with my life. And I said, well, okay, I think a career in filmmaking would be it. So I enrolled in a junior college, West LA College, and took my general ed there, transferred over to USC, and took my core classes in film.
And was it pretty much what you thought it would be? I mean, obviously you've ended up as a filmmaker. I mean, how did the school kind of shape you? I mean, did you see it as building up your skills and maybe even your experience, or was it something more like paying dues, making contacts, or even both?
It was a combination of both. I was able to meet people there. USC was, at the time, I guess, was the top college for filmmaking in the U.S., or at least in the top 5. And a lot of prestigious filmmakers that went there. A lot of well-known filmmakers that went there. And, I just, I wanted somewhere that had that prestige, but also that had the ability to train me the way I needed to be trained, to be a solid filmmaker. So, I learned a lot. I learned a lot there. I don't regret going there. I have a lot of great experiences there. I believe it exposed me to some things that I wouldn't have been exposed to if I decided not to go. Not to go to school. I got in touch with the foreign filmmakers, and that helped me along.
And so, okay, so you go to school, you get your degree. By the time you were ready to come out of school, were you already doing projects with other people, or tell us the kind of evolution of going to school and then ending up in excuse me, with your own company, Haynes Entertainment.
Well, basically, there was a curriculum. The first semester, we shot on Super 8 film, and we did 5 films. And my first film was really rough. I mean, really, really rough, because I had never shot anything before. Prior to that, my only thing I did do was write. And so, putting together something on film, a narrative, was totally alien to me. And it showed. The first film was kind of rough, and as the semester went along, it got better. There was a point where they thought I might make it. About 3 films in, I didn't seem to be showing a lot of progress. And thank God, that 4th film, something clicked, and my last 2 films were really well received by the class and the instructors. So went on to my second semester. We elevated. We worked on more advanced cameras. Well, at the time, we had 60 millimeter cameras, or we had the DSS cameras. So, and with that said, I mean, the kids today really have it made because they shoot digital. Back then, we shot on Super 8, we shot on 16 millimeter, and we had to cut and splice everything. But all those experiences, I think, built a foundation for being a filmmaker. So you know what kind of work it took to do it, to make something happen. There's aspects where you worked on, like if you, the first semester, make sure you did everything. You shot the film, you did the sound, you did the music, you got the actors. The second semester, you partnered with the other partner, and you kind of shared in the responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
One person would be the director, the other person would do the sound and cinematography. While the person who did the directing would work on the music and work with the actors. So as I progressed into my learning, there was more responsibility added on. But with that, there was more partnership. Because you had to do auditions, you had to find locations, and with that second year, you had to report back to the instructor, which we've done. And you faced through the whole process, there was always critique from the students as well as the instructors. So it was very humbling at times, because just when you thought you might have a grasp on things, you realize that you don't. So you found that was always a learning process. You always had to adapt to situations. Actors not showing up, losing locations. So these are all the things you found out in college. This wasn't even the professional world, the real world.
Right.
I had a situation where I had an actress, and this was my final semester, and she's the main actress, and we have a pickup shoot to do, and because she's trying to rent out an apartment, she didn't show up, and we waited on the set for 2.5 hours, and finally had to go over and say, "What's going on with you?" And basically, she had a rabbit, a live bunny rabbit living in the room. The room was his room, and he did his business everywhere, and she was there on her hands and knees scrubbing the carpet, trying to get it ready to be viewed by a prospect. And I'm just pulling my hair out, but at the same time, I couldn't get angry, because if I got angry, then I would have lost her. So I had to sit there for 45 minutes until she was finished, drive her to the location, do the shoot, drive her back, and keep a smile on my face. So, the things you go through to make a film. And this is just in school. This is not even the real world yet.
Right. Well, I mean, but see, that's a good program there. I know a lot of people who go through Columbia here in Chicago, and they'll start out school and go, "Oh, I want to be a director," and have no idea, the gestalt of making a movie. And a good program like that is going to show you exactly every single step, every single nuance, and every single thing that you have to be prepared for. And once you have three quarters of your shot shots done with the same actress, you can't just kick her to the curb because she's got a funky bunny, and grab somebody else.
Exactly.
Then you start looking like Bewitched with the two different Darrens, and nobody's going to buy that. All right, so it sounds like the program did you well. It gave you great training. By the time you came out of there, were you still more interested in kind of like the writing, directing aspect where you're actually putting together the project with the vision, with the story, and the nuances that you want to show in the story? Or had you developed more of an appreciation for some other part of the movie-making process?
No, I was I was more interested in directing and writing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that experience. I mean, when you love something and you enjoy doing it, you put up with things. I mean, every industry has its challenges, but if you have a love for whatever industry it is, you have a love for what you're doing, you're going to find a way to get over that obstacle. So, and that's basically what I do in this business is, you know, I just find a way to get over obstacles. You have to. You can't let that stop you, because if if something comes up and you can't handle it, then you don't have any business doing it, no matter what it is. So, no, I love making film. I love writing. The process sometimes it's challenging, it's frustrating, but when it all comes together, it's a beautiful thing.
Sure.
When the words line up the way you want them to line up, it's beautiful. When you get on the set and get that shot that you always wanted to get, and that will bring out the story, it's a beautiful thing. So it's all worth it to me.
Okay, so then tell us about your first movie project, the first project that you helmed. Was it something you wrote?
What are you talking about? Was it in college or out of?
I'm talking about once you graduated and you had. Let's talk about your first commercial piece, or did you do? A lot of people here will do, a lot of these shootouts, the 48-hour film project, the 24-hour film project, various stuff like that here in Chicago to get their experience. And obviously they don't make any money from that. Did you, once you got out of school, did you have to do work on free projects first, or did you start doing commercial work right away?
Well, basically, I worked on a few things that didn't really see the light of day. I worked on some things with some friends.
Mm-hmm.
Helped them out with their projects. I did a couple of music videos. But my first independent film was Hysteria, which I...
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah, that was my first one, where I found some producers, and basically were my friends, and we got the actors, we got the crew, got the locations, permits. I mean, we pretty much did everything by the book as we could.
Mm-hmm.
There was some guerrilla filmmaking aspects to it. So we did what we needed to do, and we persevered. It took. We started the process in 2003, and the film screened in 2005.
Wow. For those of you out there who are listening and would like to take a look at a little more information about this, you can go to www.Haynes Entertainment, Haynes, entertainment.com, and right at the very top there is a blurb about Hysteria. Just for me, I don't care about everybody else right now. Just for me, tell me a little bit about the guerrilla aspects of your filming, and because those are always the best stories, because you're running risk, you never know what's going to happen. Did you have any adventure out of that?
No, by the grace of God, everything really fell into place. Really fortunate. I really feel blessed about that. I guess what could have been the biggest challenge is that there's a park here, the night-size park here in LA. Mm-hmm. Where we shot on a Sunday, and there was a potential problem of, some people coming by, and you know what I mean by those people, some people coming by and, confiscating the camera and kicking us out. We just got there early enough. We got there 6 o'clock in the morning. We shot for about 5 hours. We got in, got out, and no problem. Now, we have to be really careful with that because, if those people come by, it can really ruin your day.
Sure.
But the AD/cinematographer had shot there before and had some really good experience in shooting there.
Right.
So I just, took a leap of faith and, shot a couple of scenes. And it went rather well. The only problem we had was that day the sun was harsh, so it casted some hard shadows.
Right.
So that took some work in post-production to try to even that out. But other than that, it went really well. So I don't have any horror stories to say as far as production, although I do have something that was kind of interesting as far as insurance, and there was a local insurance company that sold me a bad policy. Basically, he had lost his license to provide insurance.
Right.
And so the day before one of the shoots, I'm trying to get camera equipment, and the camera rental company can't confirm their insurance carrier.
Right.
So you get this information on a Friday at 4 p.m. It's very your heart jumps out your chest, and basically I was just numb because I had everything set up, camera, actors, location, and it was about to be pulled from under me because you had an individual that tried to, he wasn't trying to harm me, but he was just trying to, his policy ended, I think, 5 days ahead of time.
Uh-huh.
And he's just trying to do what a lot of people do with their insurance. They try, just to try to get by until they can renew it.
Sure.
But unfortunately, I got caught up in that web, and basically we had to go to another production company. He happened to know somebody, and so he sent me over there. But unfortunately, we talk about it's now 5 o'clock. All the good camera stuff is gone. We had a great camera package at the other company, but we weren't able to get what we needed to shoot with.
Right.
So basically what happened next was, he wanted to charge me extra for the insurance. And I said, what are you talking about? This whole situation is because you let your insurance lapse. So we were back and forth, and then he had the audacity to tell me, he said, well, I know a lot of people in this town. And as if to say, well, I can make a bad, blacklist your name or something. And I said, well, do what you have to do, but you know what you need to do. So needless to say, he didn't charge me the extra money. It was like $400 that he wanted to charge me. And he didn't do it. I think he knew better. That's probably the worst experience of that entire shoot.
Is he still alive?
I don't know. I'm hoping, and I'm a God-fearing man, so I've forgiven him, and hopefully he's learned from that lesson. As I learned from that lesson, you really have to double check everything. To this day, I'm very anal about paperwork because people don't always do what they should do, and it's not always intent to trick you or get over on you. It's just they want to look a certain way, keep a certain front, but sometimes in doing that hurts other people. So
sure.
And actually, it in talking to the second camera place learned what he did. They ceased doing business with him, and they said actually what he did was borderline fraud. It could have been some big consequences. So just a word to everybody out there, just really be careful when you get those insurance or permits. Make sure everything's signed. You can't do enough research on a company just to make sure to cover yourself.
And what I have learned in my filmmaking is you do not have your insurance, because one little thing can wipe you out. I mean, wipe you out for the rest of your life if you're not careful.
Right. And that's part of, guerrilla filmmaking is some people shoot without insurance. And depending on what you're doing, I mean, I guess that's fine if you're just doing a sit-down scene. But if you have some stunts or anything happening, you have to have that insurance. Because there's some projects that's in the future that I'm doing that there's going to be some martial arts involved, and as much as I want to try to avoid insurance, I'm going to have it.
When I first started out, I was armorer for a gangster movie, and truth be told, I didn't even have my Illinois permits, my firearm ID card, or anything. And we're filming in the middle of the night in an alley. And, of course, the cops do show up. But we had all our other paperwork, and they said, who's the armorer? I said, well, I'm supervising, blah, blah, blah. And they didn't delve too deeply into it. But then when you think about it, for me to have a multiple weapons charge would probably have killed my career. So it's just not worth it.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why having a great producer, someone who is very good at dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and making sure that all the paperwork is in order, it seems to be so important. Now, do you have certain people that you work with, you normally work with, friends of yours or people in your company that you've gotten to work with, or are you still in the process of, you pick and choose the right people for your projects?
I pretty much pick and choose the right people. There is there's core people, like 3 or 4 people I work with regularly. Work as a producer. One works as a producer or AD because I know I can trust them. Mm-hmm. But every project's different. It depends on the talent level. Depends on how much I have to pay them. There's a lot of variables that go into it. So yeah, I mean, it depends on the project. I work with different people. I'm open to working with different people. I've learned a lot from working with different people.
Well, that is true, and it exposes you to different people who do things in a different way. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but for me, the educational process is ongoing. I can't imagine any time where I'm going to sit back and say, I know everything. I can always learn more. Tell us a little bit about your first film. Tell us a little bit about Hysteria and how it came about and what kind of got you to the point where you actually were able to execute the movie.
Well, basically, several friends of mine were all filmmakers, and we have been talking about doing a project together. Mm-hmm. And it was going to be like an anthology series. And we had talked about it for 2, 3 years, 4 years had passed. And this was after I went to, excuse me for jumping around, but it was after I graduated from SC, I went to UCLA Extension to strengthen my writing skills. And I graduated graduated out of there, was certified in 2000. So about 3 years had passed, and I didn't have a project. And I wanted to do something, and as I said, it was me and 3 other friends that were talking about it. We had numerous meetings about it, but nothing happened. And one day he said, you know what, I have to get something done. And so I just said, I'm going to do it. So I wrote the script. The script was inspired from a Twilight Zone episode, and there's a 1920s horror film called The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And that movie is basically about a sanitarium. And there was a series of murders that were occurring in that sanitarium. So I took that and I blended it with this Twilight Zone episode, and that's how I came up with Hysteria. So I was very inspired by, I love the Twilight Zone. I love Outer Limits. There's another one called One Step Beyond. Most of these are always these originate in the 50s, and I love the Night Gallery too in the 60s, which was also Rod Serling. He created Twilight Zone. He created the Night Gallery.
Right.
And so I just wrote the script. I was inspired from that. I wrote the script. I talked to a couple of friends and told what I was doing. And one of the friends from the original group, he came on as a producer slash AD. I had another friend who came on as a producer. And there was a young lady who had read the script and she wanted to be involved. And so I said, fine, and I could use all the help I could get. And so I wrote the script. They helped me find the actors. I found the cinematographer from Film Independent. I think they were called, they weren't called Film Independent at the time, they were called something else. But I put some notices out, some cast notices out, some crew notices out, and basically I did some interviews, looked at some different, I looked at reels. I had to make the decision that I want to go video, if I want to go film.
Right.
And I said to myself, well, if I'm going to do it, I decided to go film, because video at that time, back in 2003, isn't what it is now. So I decided to shoot 16, actually I shot Super 16 film. Of course, later, when I saw how much it was going to cost to, take a fatality scene and all that other stuff, I said, wow, why did I do this? But seeing the end result, it was worthwhile. So, basically, I had a couple of auditions. My producer, Elizabeth Goldstein, she had a home office. So we used a home office for a scene. She had a contact at an office building, which we used for another scene. I had to pay like $400 for some interior location, which was a lobby area, hallway, and a recreation room.
Right.
Which was a great deal. And the other two other locations, I used a friend's apartment. And there was a lot of things where, we had one location where actually it looked like one location, but we filmed in three separate places. So that's pretty much how I got it done.
Right.
So it was Doug said that we started in early 2003, actually late 2002. And then it didn't screen the film to 2005. Partly the reason for that was I ran out of money, basically. So because there were times we had to do a lot of had to be really resourceful.
Sure.
So there was times where, as far as food, my wife one time she cooked some spaghetti, because the funds just wasn't there. And thankfully, and that goes back to, that's one of the things I learned. You try to treat your crew the best way possible, because they will perform. I mean, as long as you give them your best as a director on the set and treat them well and really try to look out for them, when it gets tough, they'll have their back. And
right.
They were cool with the homemade spaghetti, and we were able to finish the film. But it took, in 2003, I shot 4 days to get half the film done, and then in 2004, I shot 2 other days. And I got it done. So you just have to persevere. Overall, it cost me about 15 G's at the time for production and post. Shooting film is a different experience, because unlike digital, I can shoot something this weekend and have it cut by Monday. But with film, you have to wait. You have to get it digitized, and then you get the work print, and that can take 3 or 4 days. And then you have then you bring in the editors and so on and so forth.
I went through the same process when I did this production trailer for the bank heist movie, and we used my house, and I'm still mad at them because they trashed it and then left. And we used we used our videographer's house for a couple scenes, and fortunately, friends of friends lent us a laundromat and excuse me, and a restaurant and things like that. So we were able to do a $65,000 production trailer essentially for $130 worth of food.
That's great.
I'm telling you, man.
That sounds like a great deal. I wish I had that deal.
Well, but see, the thing is you probably might even have a better opportunity than I do. I mean, if we talked about it a little bit earlier before we got on the air, but I mean, networking was so important because the people I used were friends. They were the production guys, actually sat in as actors, and excuse me. So what I had to do was I had to go and write the script and use how they spoke, words that they would normally use, phrases that they would normally use so that they could deliver them as easy as possible. But here in Chicago, we don't have the resources that you have out there for trying to get people who will do pickup work. But we have a really good network, the Chicago Independent Artists Network, and there's, like 1,500 people. And when you have a project, you can put a notice out and get some participation. Is it like that for you, or is everybody out there, because it is the industry city, are they less likely to do free things and make you have to spend more money? How is it out there?
Well, back 10 years ago, it was more. I think it was easier to get someone to come on for free. I mean, but first of all, it starts with the script. I mean, the script has to be strong. The cinematographer came on to do the project for nothing because she liked the script. She thought it was worth her time. She thought there were elements in it that could help her, showcase her skills and further her career. And she convinced, 3 other, of her friends to come on board. He came on, I had first AC and second AC. They came on for nothing. I mean, that's just incredible. And she got a gaffer as well. So she brought 3 people, and quality people. These weren't people just out of college. These guys had worked on the set and had experience. And they came on her word that this is going to help me. I need your help on this, and they came. I think it's possible, but not as possible today. I think mostly because of the economy.
Right.
And also you get to a point where you work people for free so many times. At some point you say, I have to pay people when I can.
Right.
Especially at critical positions. You're talking about a cinematographer and a gaffer. I think they're key because if you have a good cinematographer, you have someone that really knows what they're doing, your work can move so much smoother.
Sure.
Not a lot of explaining to do. Their setup times are much faster, as opposed to work with someone that may be good, but it may take him, instead of taking 15 minutes to set up, it might take him 30 minutes to set up.
Right.
And as the course of the day, that 15 minutes adds up to maybe an hour or 2 hours, which may equate to having to come back and shoot another day. And that's critical if you have a location that this is a one-shot deal. You can't come back. Or if you can, it's going to cost you double the money. They're giving you a break because you're an indie filmmaker. Okay, this time we'll give you this for X amount of dollars. You can't do it this time. So you have to get, you have to get in and out. So sometimes it may pay to pay more than, pay what you think is more now than to pay much more later. So But to answer your question, I think it's a little more difficult now. I mean, we have people do that,
right.
but sometimes it shows in the production quality. It just comes down to having just a script that just takes no prisoners. If you have that kind of script and you have a gift for gab, and you can be very inspirational, you probably can get people on board for nothing, little or nothing. I still have some I've worked with before that's willing to come on for nothing, some actors. But then there's some actors say, well, I got to get paid now. I'm tired of working for free. And I respect that because, you put a certain amount of time into something, 3-4 years, at some point you need to be rewarded, compensated for it.
Now, you've got Hysteria on YouTube, and it's about 21 minutes long. Is that the full film?
That's the full film. Yes, it is.
All right, I'm going to pop the link up for you. So Hysteria was your first film, and obviously it was a learning process for you. What kinds of things? I mean, what did you follow that up with, and how did that experience color how you were going to maybe do productions in the future? What kinds of things did you glean from that? Did you learn from that kind of shaped where you're going now?
Just to be prepared as possible, to know your script forwards and backwards. I think you gain a lot of respect from just knowing, just being the rock on the set. It's really important to be really prepared and really sharp and be consistent. You never want to be late for a set. And regrettably, the first day, because I was sharing producing, and there were some things I had to do, and being up all night, I showed up to the set 30 minutes late. That wasn't a good thing. But it's something I said I won't do it again. I didn't do it again.
Sure.
Because that's the precedent. If you're late to your own shoot, then other people will start being late, and things won't get done that way.
Well, it's just not a good way of doing business. Period. Yeah.
And which goes into the other thing I learned is, and part of that was trying to take too much on instead of letting other people handle things. And it's important to have a good crew, a good core crew that that you can say, hey, go do this, go do that, and know that it's done, and not trying to peek in on them, see if they're getting it done, or doing something yourself instead of letting someone else do it. Because that saves you time. You're more focused on directing the actors and getting the story on screen. So, that's the thing I learned, just to be better prepared. I was prepared, but I could have been better prepared.
Sure.
And I had an excellent crew. My cinematographer, Yin Win, she was great to work with. And that's another thing. It's good to be on the same page with the cinematographer. We had several meetings before we even shot. We talked over shots, angles. She wanted to have a moving camera, and so since we discussed these things, the first day and the only day I was tardy, she already set up everything, and she knew the shot I wanted, so we talked about it. So, I think it's great to have a crew that knows you, especially a DP that knows what you want, and you guys agree on things. You're kind of like one and the same. And we did have some disagreements, but it was no knockdown, drag out, and it was from an artistic perspective. So we had these debates on set, and that's another thing. Thrive off try if you can not to have those debates in front of the crew and cast, because that can that can cause some strife on the set. And
it's not good for the process. Yeah, you don't want people to see that, especially for people who are working above the line. Let's switch gears for a second here. You're a black independent filmmaker, and you're in Hollywood. Talk to us a little bit about that, about how that is for you, and what does that mean, being in supposedly America's mecca of filmmaking, and here you are, a black independent.
Well, it's an interesting question. I mean, being in Hollywood has its advantages. I mean, you're closer to the scene. I can drive up to Sunset, be there. I can be Sunset Hollywood Boulevard, 30 minutes to 45 minutes. So in terms of being able to get sit-down meetings, it's an advantage. In terms of being a black independent, I guess the frustrating thing for me is that I often wonder what direction we're going as when we talk about black independence.
Right.
I like to see more diversity. I gravitated towards science fiction and fantasy and supernatural, spiritual, because it was more interesting to me. I got more out of it, especially when you can take social commentary and political aspects and blend in to that. So the frustration for me is, or the challenge, is that mainstream to be more supportive of those projects like that, science fiction. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the comedies and some of the urban dramas. That's fine. I think we just be a little more broader as far as how to depict black characters and give black filmmakers a wider scale to work with. So it's challenging, but the thing that I keep in mind is that if I just stick to it and write the best story possible, I will persevere. I was thinking about Sidney Poitier, because he was a black actor that came up in the 50s and the 60s, the height of the civil rights movement. And here, this man, he was able to win an Academy Award during that time, which I think is just amazing. So you look at what he's able to do. I think anyone today, any black indie filmmaker, they can accomplish anything. You just have to know what you want, set your mind to it, and go get it. And that's how I believe. So I think, I appreciate my blackness. I love being black, but at the same time, you can't look too much at that. You have to be a filmmaker and just be the best filmmaker possible. Because at the end of the day, that's what counts, I believe. And I think that needs to be the focus.
Yeah, I tend to agree in broad strokes, but let's talk about some realities. Let's talk about, let's talk about funding, because you can't do a movie without money.
That's true. You're right. You're absolutely right.
And when you look at, who are considered some of the leading black filmmakers of our generation, or even just today, obviously they can't command the same kinds of money that and we're not talking top tier like James Cameron, hundreds of millions kind of movie. Excuse me. But I mean, they can't get that kind of funding in order to do a movie. So, whether you want to be considered a filmmaker first who happens to be black, or whether the rest of the industry is considering you a black filmmaker, there are some realities that appear to have to be paid attention to.
Right, I definitely agree. I mean, there are some things you have to pay attention to, but at the same time, you can't put too much effort into it. I mean, it is what it is. And I just strongly think that it comes down to, I mean, yes, race is definitely a factor in getting money and getting your movie out there and getting it seen.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't let that deter you. You can't give that too much value. And once you put too much value on that, I think it to some extent holds you back. It gives you, it opens the door for other things that doesn't benefit you. I think, I just strongly think that, I mean, you just have to, again, make the best film possible. Don't even make race or, I mean, you can't get into that. I mean, yes, there is a time and place for it, perhaps, but you can't spend too much time on it. I mean, you know what it is. I try to look at what our successes are rather than what our failures are. I look at, Sidney Poitier, as I mentioned. I look at The Color Purple and Coming to America. Coming to America came out in maybe how long has it been, like 1980, 89, something like that, 88?
It was a while ago.
Yeah, Coming to America in 1988 made $128 million 30 years ago. That was pretty much an all-black cast. Would you agree?
Oh, no. Please, don't get me wrong. I'm not arguing with you, but then when you turn around, well, wait. And I've mentioned this in other shows. When you turn around and you have a George Lucas who wants to do Red Tails and he has to self-fund because he can't get anybody to give him any money, it would appear. The only time Spike Lee got white people money to do a movie was when he only directed Inside Man. There are some realities that you have to pay attention to, but obviously you don't want to define your effort, your art, or your creativity by them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So yes, you're absolutely right. You will get. I mean, right now, if let's see, who just did a big. Let's look at what's the short little brother, comedian. Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart just sold out, Radio City Music Hall, which has only been done just a few times by black person. So obviously he's going to have some entertainment leverage. Will Smith is a big draw, and we can argue about his last movie as much as we want later. But there are.
Everybody has one of those. Everybody has one of those.
Absolutely, but I'm not harping on it like, oh, it's woe is me. I'm a black man trying to make a movie and I can't make a movie. But right. I would imagine that. I mean, okay, let's be brutally honest. For the last 5 generations, black professionals have been trained by their parents, by their peers, that they are going to have to accept half the credit for doing twice as much, which means, to what you said, when you put together that absolutely fabulous script that says every possible thing that you want it to say and says it in such a poignant and effective way that if the movie is produced and executed well, there's no way in the world that people are going to deny the quality of the art. But getting to when people can't deny the quality of the art part seems to be a slightly a tougher uphill climb for someone like you or I. So, I mean, but you're absolutely right. You don't let that define you. You don't let that stop you, and you certainly don't turn off your creativity. Right. But be prepared to deal with the realities of the situation at hand. Is my point. And for you, I mean, you did. What was your budget for Hysteria?
Well, in the beginning, it was around. I wanted to keep it around 10,000.
Yeah.
But but because I couldn't get everything done in a certain time frame, it went up to $15,000, which actually.
Oh yeah, that's right. You said that, yeah.
Yeah, which actually was still really good because I got a lot of favors, and it could have been well into like 25,000. I could have. I did get some favors. I got some breaks. So, I mean, back then, being a short film, now I know of someone who shot a feature on digital with a DSL camera for $10,000. So, times have changed in 10 years.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I don't regret it. And just going back to what I was saying about coming to America, and A Color Purple, I mean, those movies did very, very well. And I bring those movies up because there's currently a lot of dilemma or debate about how much money a black, all black casted film can make.
Sure.
And when you look at those films, those films had a universal quality that appealed to everyone, and they're well done, well directed, and as a result, they were box office. I would say for that time, they were box office sensations. I mean, we would love to have a black film make $120 million today.
Absolutely.
Let alone these films did it in 1988. Color Purple. Color Purple did $98 million. I think Like a Man did $95 million. And so I just think, and I agree with you. I mean, realistically, we do have a tough climb. It is hard to get money. We just have to be where it is. What it is. If you want to get it done, you just have to be resourceful. You got to think outside the box. There's some other debate about whether the black audience, supports, black films enough. You look at a film like Great Debaters; they did $30 million. I'm sorry to throw a lot of stats. I keep track of this stuff because I just use it as a measuring tool. To see what I need to do and see what genres are doing good and what genres aren't. And Great Debaters, the film, arguably, I thought was very well done, and I thought it was worthy of more than $30 million. Especially when you have a film like Soul Plane that makes $20 million, which is, and I say that I mean no disrespect. I mean no disrespect for those who like to do kind of like Soul Plane, and I don't think it was Soul Plane. I'm sorry, Soul Plane didn't make that much. I think it's Lottery Ticket. I think the challenge that we have is that there's enough diverse films showing a wide range of black life. I would love to see more films about the great kings of Africa. There's Lewis Latimer and there's Granville T. Woods, inventors that contributed to what America is today. And I think those films would be well appreciated, and they need to be done. And but to your point, yeah, you're right. The financing, it's hard to do anything when the landscape is not even.
Yeah. All of that aside, what are you finding good support for doing? And let's spin this back around to black science fiction, fantasy, horror. Are you finding good support to try to get your projects done?
That's a great question, and the answer is not. I have to be honest. I haven't been pursuing it as I need to because, I'm still working on some things to get my work polished. There was a script that I had in place, and basically, and this was 10 years ago, and basically when the comment by my instructor said it was a great concept, he loved the concept, but he said he doesn't know how Hollywood is going to market it once you get it right.
Right.
And I thought that was interesting. So, yes, I think it's everything's a stepping stone. You get little victories, you get little setbacks. To some extent, the latest Will Smith movie might be viewed as a setback. I recently submitted a treatment, and it's about a young boy who basically saves the world. Mm-hmm. A young African American boy, 10 years old, who's brought in. He's a child genius, and he saves the world. So I think what's one of the things that might be a hindrance to black filmmakers is there's a stigma attached, and that stigma is that, you know, there's a lot of B movies out there, and there's a lot of the same type of thing out there. Because when people see Hysteria, and for those who really like it, you know, and they're not not black, they're like, oh, you wrote this. And they have this look on their face like, wow, you wrote this? And it's not that they're not believing, but I guess they're expecting to see, you know, the usual stuff. And that's not what I write. And like I said, the usual stuff is fine, but and again, we welcome that. I mean, there's been some comments about the butler and what that represents and the health. But I think that's all part. I think that's necessary because it's, number one, it's part of our history. But number two, that story needs to be told. So the new generation, the younger generation, who doesn't know about those things, will learn about it. And you know, it's all. I think it's all. You know, I think it's very necessary. So I welcome all those kind of films because we, you know, for black filmmakers shouldn't be limited just because of content that they think is demeaning to black people. I mean, Color Purple, going back to Color Purple, there were some boycotts and there were some challenges by the NAACP when that was released. There was some controversy behind that, but it was something that was true to heart, and it needed to be seen. And I think it was controversial because it was a film that the only thing that got attention was something that was negative, something that demeaned the black man, the black woman. I believe that at that time it was something that had uplifted them, like that, like a story of a black king in Timbuktu, or an inventor, or something more that was considered positive. More stories like that, they wouldn't have as much resistance to something like The Butler. That I heard is a very good film.
Sure. Hang on a second. You're listening to Genesis Science Fiction Radio, a service of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. This is the August 16th edition of 2013, and we're talking to Gerald Haynes, who is the founder of Haynes Entertainment. He is a filmmaker, and he's based in L.A. For those of you who may want to look up a little more of his work, he's at HaynesEntertainment.com, Haynes Entertainment.com, all one word. Somebody just handed me something, and can I just? Do you have a second for me? Do you mind if I read you something?
Of course.
This is something from Harry Lennox, black actor. You know him? I believe he was in The Matrix, or one of the Matrix.
He's in The Matrix. Yeah.
And he says his post essentially is entitled "Black Filmmakers Give Us Terrible Images and Messages. I Reject Them Wholesale." And I want to read kind of a quote here. Where was this? Obviously his post generated a lot of controversy, and he had an interview where he referred to Lee Daniels, the butler, as excuse me, folks, if you get easily offended, niggerfied historical porn after reading the script, and obviously he was upset at that kind of depiction. Fortunately, not fortunately, let me take that word back. Let's just say that apparently your writing is definitely more mainstream and doesn't fall into that kind of thinking. I mean, that's the way I write. I don't write anything, that I would consider just oriented for low-hanging black fruit. I want things to be more mainstream and have positive images of black folks in them. Is that pretty much where you're at as well?
Could you repeat? I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Well, Lennox's point is that, the kinds of movies that get made today that are black-oriented movies are essentially, a poor form of racist pornography, if I can use that term. You've got The Help, you've got The Butler, you've got what have you, and when you look at what sells and what's more successful, other than somebody like Tyler Perry, who goes for low-hanging fruit, it sounds to me like you're looking at science fiction, horror, fantasy. You're looking to write things that are basically attractive to the mainstream, but have black characters and maybe black themes in them. Is that deliberate on your part to make it more commercially successful, or is that just the way your stories generally go?
It's deliberate, and also it's a combination of both. I love the genre of science fiction and fantasy, and I do believe, and it's more so I want African Americans to be represented in a different light. Again, you look at the films like The Help and The Butler. Those films, I think, are necessary, and I can't criticize the filmmakers.
I'm not asking for that.
I know that you're not. I know you're not saying that yourself, but for me, we've seen that. I know, but I grew up watching those type of films before, and for
sure.
me, I don't need to see it again because I know that part of history. Whereas, it might be a 20-year-old, regardless of race or gender, they would need to see something like The Help or The Butler. I've heard of people in that age range that say that really happened. So that part of history is not really taught. And
right.
that part of history is just as valuable, I think, as anything. So our children, regardless of race, need to know what this country's history is. It sounds kind of corny. The saying is, you don't know your past, you don't know your future. And corny as that sounds, there's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of things I think if black people were more aware of their past and know of their accomplishments, there'd be probably a different approach to the things they do today.
Right.
That's that's a small part of it. But for me, I love the genre, and I feel it's a way to portray black people in a different light. With science fiction, fantasy, I can put them in situations where they can still be flawed characters, but they can still be respected.
And to what you were saying, it's also essential, and I think it's essential for our kids to take a look at the early movies of Sidney Poitier, because remember, he did play against type, but yet he still played as a black man, and a black man who was equal to the whites around him, which is something very significant. And from a historical perspective, to have been able to capture those roles and pull them off the way he did, it's a remarkable part of American film history.
William, that's an excellent point. You're so right in that. He played those roles, and as a black man, he was the equal. And
right.
Just him alone, his on-screen persona and his off-screen persona, gives me hope that he did in the era where, no one said it could be done. I mean, you look at we have a black president, and there's a lot of people who said that it wouldn't happen. So, I see a great possibility of having that all-black cast in a science fiction movie that grosses $200 million. I mean, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
And you have to have that kind of thought. You can't think less than that. If you think less than that, then you will receive less than that. So my thinking is, I make the best movie I can. I do the best marketing I can. I study marketing trends. I study movies, how they market it, what type of box office they did, where they did it at, and I just try to apply everything I learned. It's a learning process, but it can be done. You just can't. You can't, and you know this. You can't think on a negative level. You got to think beyond. You got to think, okay, you can have an all-black cast and it grows $500 million, and you might say it's impossible, but maybe 10, 15 years ago, who would think that Will Smith with I Am Legend would have an opening of $80 million plus? And
Absolutely.
Be overseas. So we have to think as filmmakers and as a race, we can't put limitations on ourselves based on what we think people are going to think of us. We just got to put our best foot forward and do the best we can and see what happens.
Yeah, but there's also the realism, the realistic part of, when you make a film, you're making it as a commercial endeavor. It is a business product. And
right.
And of course you want to be able to get good dollar for your business product. And I spoke about Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry has a built-in audience.
Right.
And whatever you think about him, he has managed very well filling that niche.
Yeah.
And so it would be nice to see maybe he'll branch out into other things, and one of the things that I find disappointing is I don't find very many black filmmakers banding together to do collaborative products. It seems like the black filmmaking community, each member is still pretty insular. What do you find out there? You're on the ground out there. Maybe you can disabuse me of my impression.
No, unfortunately, you're painfully correct. Although you look like Tyler and they kind of came together. I think they came together for Precious, didn't they? Tyler and I don't know if they put their name on the movie or they actually contributed to the movie. But Tyler and Oprah Winfrey came together. He's helping her with her own channel. I guess he's producing a couple of shows, The Have and the Have Not.
Yeah.
That's on her show, on her channel, and there's another one. Both have been, kind of slammed by both the critics and the audience. But that's only one thing. I think, but overall, it's not happening. I mean, and I don't know why that is. I mean, earlier I was saying how there was myself and three other my good friends, and we couldn't come together to create a project, and we're all very capable, and the strength in numbers, but there was always something, and it wasn't necessarily that we couldn't get along. We just couldn't agree what to do, in the stall. So that's disappointing. I mean, I'm not sure. You've seen some of the articles about the Black Panther and why isn't there a Black Panther movie. There was another article about Black Panther. Why wasn't he in Marvel's Avengers? And most people hate the Falcon for whatever reason. He gets no respect. But, I mean, when it comes down to it, at some point, it's our own responsibility. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but you look. It took. I mean, look how long it took for. And talking about the Black Panther, going back to that, you look at them making the Avengers and all the preparation, and they were still scared. The industry was scared that studio was scared that they might fail. You look at the Superman movie. I mean, Superman's ingrained in American culture. But if it's not made the way people think it's made, it won't do well. even with Batman, some of the Batmans got slammed. Now they got made because they were American culture, but it takes, that's 40, 50, 60 years of being, day after day, year after year, being, Batman and Superman's in the comic books, cartoons on TV. They have a well-traveled history. So, with that thought, it's going to be a challenge, especially as a black filmmaker. The thing is, we just have to make those. We have to make those inroads and be patient. I mean, that's a hard thing, being patient. A lot of us, no matter what color you are, we want it now. We want our success now. We want our victories now. But sometimes, for us, we have to just work harder for it. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's probably a hard pill to swallow, but it's the only way we're going to get it done. And there's way of I just try to have an open mind and think there's ways to do it. With finances, you make alliances. No matter what color, you make an alliance. I mean, I have people of all colors and backgrounds come on to work on Hysteria, and I think part of that is, I started the process of getting the movie done, and people saw what it was, and they came on and supported it. And if it was that that regular kind of movie where it's depicted in the hood and there's a lot of cussing and nudity and people getting shot, I may not have had that same success. So it comes down to the material, what kind of material you put out there, and people respect that, and people will come and work on it. And sometimes you'll be blessed and you'll get breaks. That's how I see it. But I mean, to your question, we have to find a way to work together more. And unfortunately, there are times we have to work with other people.
Sure.
Because some of our people, I hate to be painfully honest, but don't come the way they need to come. I had a casting director, and she bailed out on me.
Was it something you said?
I'm sorry?
Was it something you said? I'm just kidding, Gerald.
Maybe I looked at it the wrong way,
Well, no, and I say that only, I'm joking about halfway, but, the other thing is, there's a lot of, I think a lot of, and excuse me for characterizing it this way, but a lot of unnecessary personality BS that gets in the way. I'll give you a great example here in Chicago. I'm working with some advertising firms and probably one of the greatest advertising minds in America who happens to be black. He's former EVP at Leo Burnett. He said something to me very similar to the film world. He said that black advertising firms do not merge. They do not work with each other, and there's no collaboration and there's no cooperation. And he said that, you don't find that with white-owned firms because there's two different mindsets. And in advertising, the mindset for the mass market firms, for the white firms, we just saw the biggest advertising merger 2 weeks ago in the history of advertising with Omnicom here in the U.S. and Publicis out in France. But he said that in many cases, when you have white businesses, they will merge in order to increase market share and make money. And he said the thing that keeps black firms from merging is because too many of them are, and most of them are run as lifestyle firms. And the people at the top want to retain that top spot. They want to retain the money they have, the prestige, whatever it is that's floating their boat. And they're incapable of cooperating together because someone always has to be boss. And it's hard to imagine, that perfect world that you and I would like to see where we could get, maybe 3 or 4 really good black filmmakers together who would collaborate on a project, bring all of their resources together so that they could probably get maybe $100 million movie done, and actually have it get good distribution so that the world can see what can be done. You know, that seems to be the biggest hurdle. Do you understand what I'm saying, or am I overblowing the point? I mean, what do you think, Gerald?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, yeah, I totally agree with you. I could see the mainstream, whatever industry, they merge to become stronger. And again, it's, you know, it's something that, you know, it's painful to you know, to admit, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's just hard to describe why that is. I don't know. It's something from, you know, being, you know, 400 years of oppression, and subconsciously when you get something, you want to hold on to it, because if you share it, you might lose it.
Or the fact that, you know, there's only this much to go around, and if you get it, if you don't get it, you get nothing. Maybe that's it too. I don't know.
So that was an interesting point, because years ago when I guess when New Jack City came out, and it was another black film. I forgot what it was called, and one of my friends remarked, "Well, I can only see one film." And she said, "Why do you put both films out at the same time? I can only see one film." And it's like, why can't you see them both? That's what I said in my mind. But
right.
That's kind of like that psychology, because also there's that, unfortunately, again, it's that factor of trust. And you know, if I'm gonna work with this person, well, you know, will I lose anything from this? So I better hold on tight to what I have, because I can't trust that they'll go the way it should. And
well, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about trust issues. I mean, because too many people have gone behind the backs of other people and screwed them, stabbed them in the back, or whatever. Let's go back to the 1970s when you know, black social workers were all vying for some federal dollars to somehow pacify black folks so that they didn't kill white folks in riots, blah blah blah. And so you have, you know, black activists fighting over who gets how much federal money. And I think this goes back to I would put this right back into slavery times, when we were brought over here and taught to not trust and to always compete and always divide against ourselves. I mean, you had, you know, I'll use the nice term, you had the house Negroes versus the field Negroes, you know, and when people perceive that, oh, gee, you know, there's only so much to go around, if they really believe that, then they're going to grab, you're exactly right, they're going to grab onto it, they're going to hold on to it, and they're going to do everything they can to retain it. Right. Instead of realizing that, what do they say, rising tide floats all boats? Right.
And this is something you bring up a good point, because this is something that's not only here in America. It's worldwide, in Africa, and you know, there are some things that's going on there. I don't want to get too political, but you know, there's things where that we're fighting each other, where we instead of uniting, and there's, you know, I don't know if you call it a hidden agenda or what you might call it, but you know, you have black people not working with black people, just to get, you know, that extra nugget, and you know, we just have to find a way, and it takes one person at a time to, you know, turn it around. And so, you know, I just try to do what I can, and put it out there. Let's just work together. And it's hard, because as you get older, people have families and obligations, and you really have to pick and choose your battles, for lack of a better word. What practice is going to work on? Is that probably worth my time? Is it going to be? You know, I had a really good friend. He was a really good artist, and he never developed. We started work on a comic book graphic novel, And he drew some pictures. He's a really good artist, and it never went any further. So he said, well, what are we going to do when we get this done?
Right.
And I explained, well, we're going to, show it to some people, try to get some people behind us, and I tried to explain it to him, but he wasn't seeing the vision, and he lost interest in it. And so it's hard. Even with talented people, they don't have the determination or I guess the perseverance to really make it happen. It's like I got a joke. I guess maybe I'm telling too much information here, but my garage is a mess. And you look at that garage. I look at that garage and I'm not doing this today. And for some people, when you look at a film project or partner with somebody, that's they look at all the work. It's like it's just too intimidating.
Right.
And that could be with some of the partnerships why partnerships aren't forming. Looking at what the other camp has and what they might have to deal with, what kind of personalities, or is their cash flow going to be enough? Am I going to be putting out all the money? And a lot of these things are thought about, and as a result, nothing gets done.
Mm-hmm.
So, my thought process is just let's do it. I mean, just bring people together and do what you can. And people have done that. We see projects that get done, like Fruitville Station, and that was, I think, Forrest Whitaker helped the young man get that project done.
Sure.
It takes the right set of eyes with the right intentions to get projects done. Because the opposite happens, you get the wrong people, it don't stall.
Right.
So I think, like I said, I know it sounds trivial, talk about Batman and Superman, those franchises, but they took 60 years to build. I mean, they've been around since 1930. So we're just coming into the film game as black filmmakers really strongly in the 90s doing these things. So, it's been, America, they dominate, to some extent, dominate the world in filmmaking.
Well, the B side to that is, America does dominate in filmmaking, but urban American culture, black culture, dominates world culture in terms of music and things like that as well, and translating that power into something substantive is I think a laudable goal. Let me ask you something. Have you considered taking on any projects that you haven't written?
I'm sorry now?
Have you looked at projects, looked at doing any movies where you didn't do the script, where you didn't write it? Like adaptation from somebody else's work?
Oh, yeah. I'm very open to that. As a matter of fact, Octavia Butler is one of my favorite science fiction authors. She has a book called Parable of Suffolk.
Uh-huh.
And I would love to adapt that and make it into a film. That's I usually like writing a lot of my own stuff, but that's one I would love to adapt that book, Parable of the Sower, and make that into a film. I think that'd be really, if it's done the way it should be done, I think it'd be a great movie. But and I want to work with other people. They bring me a script and it gets my creative juices going, and I'm excited about it. Yeah, I would love to direct it and work on it.
Because I've got about $500 million in a trilogy that you might want to look at. It's an original story nobody else has ever done. And it's got legs. It's got legs. I'm only half kidding because as much script writing as I've done, I know I'm not good enough to do an adaptation of my own novel. But I will tell you this: the story is basically what happens in America when the country finds out that black folks have been secretly living on the backside of the moon since before Neil Armstrong got there.
that would be a doozy right there.
And it is a trilogy. I'm getting the second book out. I want to hurry up and get the third one out because I've had various people look to publish and maybe even option for a movie or a miniseries. But I know that everybody's waiting for the third one because they don't know if I'm crazy enough to have these black folks come back and kill everybody in America, all the white people in America, which I'm sure they would consider it being a bad investment. You know, we don't, Mr. Hayashi, we don't think that that's exactly the right kind of way that we want this thing to end. But I mean, you know, when I think about it, you know, I'm smart enough to look at a book and tell about what a budget would be for that, and it's daunting to me to think about, oh, gee, where am I going to find somebody who's going to lend me $100 million to adapt just one of the books because it's got so many locations, so much stuff going on, and so that's daunting to me, especially for somebody who has such a nascent novel and filmmaking career. You've been at it for a while. I mean, if all of a sudden you were presented with a project that you knew was going to be a $100 million project, would you have to pass on it? Or do you really think that you could persevere and maybe in a year or 2 or 5 pull together the resources to do it? I mean, I guess that's the essence of the question of, you know, what kind of leverage can a black filmmaker have? And this is not even a black project. This would be a mainstream project. How do you get yourself put at the helm of a $100 million project and get the money? Oh, somebody said green screen. No, no. I want real peoples in real locations.
Well, you know, I mean, it's just putting in the work. I mean, to get to that level. I mean,
yeah.
You look at our white counterparts, or I mean, you know, Hollywood is scared to make any kind of movie. You know,
absolutely.
You know,
they're risk averse. They are definitely risk averse.
Yeah, I mean, it's what makes money. I mean, you made a sci-fi black film, and you made it for $5 million. It did $200 million. They'll be back asking for more of those films. I mean, you look at the Scandal character, Kerry Washington.
Sure.
You know, Scandal has been somewhat a success. I guess it's safe to say. And I think shortly after, there was another black character that came on Channel 4. Well, Channel 4 on NBC. So, you know, it just takes that one success. And if they think they can make money off it, they're going to do it. So I think it's possible, but I just think it's a process. I mean, I think Tim Story was able to do the Fantastic Four. He did Fantastic Four 1 and Fantastic Four 2. Now, I don't know what the budget was on those, but I thought it was pretty, I guess, interesting, and I think it was a great thing that he was able to get the helm.
Right.
And that was a commercial. That's the Marvel Comics, Fantastic Four. Who would have thought he would have got that? I mean, he wasn't. I don't think he had any action adventure films before. So for him to land that spot was a very good thing. So I think it comes down to your track record, making good decisions. I mean, you know, just like an actor has to pick, they have to pick films, you know, roles, and directors and writers got to pick the stuff that they tell, and all that work adds up. At some point, something's going to come up, and they're going to you know, he did this, and this. Let's sign him on board, you know.
Right.
I believe it was Antoine Fuqua. He directed White House Down, which so far has been the more successful of the two, you know, Attack the White House movies, for lack of a better word.
Right. Yeah. So, someone early. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm finished. I'm fine.
Someone earlier, I was chatting with her earlier. She's a astrophysicist in South Africa. She wanted me to ask you, you know, as a black filmmaker in the sci-fi kind of genre, is there something specific that you would like to explore that, well, it's actually two questions. What kinds of things would you like to explore that you haven't done yet? And do you know of any subject matter or kind of plot that if you went and did it, even if you executed it well, but it may have enough controversy that they might call it a career ender for you? Have you thought out, situations like that? And if you have, what kinds of things wouldn't you do because of it?
No, I haven't really, there's nothing that I have right now that I would think would be a career ender. I am working on something. I'm not going to, it's still kind of, still working on it. It's almost
sure.
It's a short, and I'm going to have some of my white counterparts take a look at it, see what they think. It has kind of a shock ending, and that's the closest thing. I don't think it's a career ender. It might be, career starter.
Absolutely.
But I just, there are things I try to be original as possible. They say every story's really been told. It's just that you put a different perspective on it, and you tell it in your own unique way with your own voice, which makes it different. So, I have a screenplay set in future Africa, like 40 years from now, Africa and how Africa would be, and I have a spiritual film about the tribulation that I've worked on. I have a supernatural film or supernatural screenplay that I've worked on. So that's I'm all over the place with that, and those things. One of those just examines how Black people interact with the world.
Okay.
How much of our state of being, how much of our state of being is our responsibility, or how much are we accountable for? Because you can't blame other cultures for everything. Some of the blame has to fall upon ourselves. And so those are some of the things I try to examine with my story. And I go into the supernatural genre, the fantasy genre. There's another one that I've written a short. I'm going to expand into a feature where it dates back to 15th, 14th century. And, it just follows a female character. So, in her journey, trying to save her tribe. So those, I really bounce back and forth. I try to write stories where the characters can be believable.
Right.
Because I'm not one to, I'm a spiritual person. I hold God close to my heart. So I try to stay away from stories that have too much profanity and that are too demeaning towards women. So I guess into more stories that reflect how I feel about God, how I feel about mankind. Put mankind in certain situations, but through some adversity, they're able to rise above what their differences. That one film, one script I'm working on for some time. I examined what's going on in Africa, and some of the things holding Africa from being a great continent, because there's so much there. There's so many, from the soil, so many resources to the people. There's so much greatness within them. Yet there's the divisiveness also. Just like here, we're very divisive, and this holds us back as a people across the globe. And I examine why those things happen. Why it hasn't happened in Africa? Why does it happen here in America? So, those stories, if it being an African American telling a story about Africa, then if I don't do that right, it could be, well, what right do you have to tell, you're basically an American. You happen to be black, but you're American, so what right do you have to tell our story? So right. I do have friends who are African screenwriters, and we talk, and they give me some pointers, and they put me in the right direction. And I haven't really discussed the next storm on point. I think you have to be. You want to do these projects, but you want to make sure that you're. Honesty is a good policy, but you have to make sure that you're accurate, that you reflect positive. Reflect the best. Reflect whoever you're writing about the best way possible, the truest way possible. So sometimes it's not just take liberty.
Well, and that goes back to something that Harry Lennox said in his article, which is, you don't want to do African, black African porn. You want to do something substantive. You don't want to fall into, depictions that demean. You want to have more positive imagery with strong stories and good characters. And I hate to say this, but Mr. Perry misses the boat on that. Somebody mentioned he does the same movie every time. And I have to question a guy who makes all of his money, and he makes good money, wearing a dress, okay? But that's just me. I guess Flip Wilson did well, but...
Flip Wilson did well. Martin Lawrence did well. I think Eddie Murphy did well. But you go back here, you got Tony Curtis. You got Tony Curtis and Dean Martin wore a dress.
Yep.
Robin.
Jack Lemmon.
Yeah, Robin. What's his name?
Robin Williams. Mrs. Doubtfire.
And see, that's the thing too. And I'm glad you brought that up because certain things are the mainstream can do. We can't do because of our history. And
right.
I know this is crazy what I'm about to say, but I saw a picture of a billboard of a white woman holding a watermelon. A black person couldn't do that poster, and even though there's no intent, it may not be no intent, can't do that poster.
Exactly.
And we're held back in some areas by our history. We won't do certain things.
Well, all of us are. I mean, look at the president. You will never ever see President Obama while he's president losing his temper, because once he does that, then he just simply becomes an angry black man, and there's no other meme that anybody will ever apply to him again. So you're right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just something that we just put in each of us that put our best foot forward when we can. I mean, and hopefully it'll stick. We have our victory, and every victory takes us to the next level. When Sidney won his Oscar, that was a victory.
Right.
Spike Lee got his film made. And She's Gotta Have It. She's Gotta Have It. That was a victory. He got nominated. That's a victory. Or John Singleton, he got nominated. That's a victory. I can't remember the filmmaker or the screenwriter that won for Precious, but he won. He's first black screenwriter to win, I think, an adapted screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's around the corner where we'll finally have a black director that wins Academy Award. And so that's a victory. So we just got to keep, accumulating these victories, and they're going to equate to something really special. It's just going to take some time and some patience, a lot of perseverance, a lot of tears, a lot of sweat, a lot of controversy. But just keep our eye on the prize.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best we can do. We can't look at anything else because life isn't fair. Things isn't fair. And as hard as that is to accept, you have to accept it.
Well, not only that, but you have to work with what you're given. I mean, otherwise, you have no other choice. Either quit, or try to make it.
Right. Right.
Hey, we've got about 15 minutes left. What I'd like to do is, because you didn't have much of a chance to talk about But I would like to ask you a little bit about, how your family influenced you when you were coming up, and how they support you now, since you have so many people in your family out there on the left coast with you. How does that help you, or what does that feed in you, if anything?
Well, my family is very supportive. My mother, she's actually, my mother's in the movie Hysteria. She's one of the
okay.
She plays herself. She plays one of the crazy people. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. My mother, she's a sweet lady. She's been very supportive. When it was screening, she was passing out flyers. She would go to different places and pass out flyers. So she's very supportive. My wife is supportive. She reads my script. She gives me critique. And she'll read a script 3 times. She'll spell check it. So my family is very supportive. I have an uncle on the East Coast that was, when Hysteria played on BETJ, he was calling all his friends to try to get them to look at it. Because I think it was, you'll get a certain amount of, for everybody, every time someone view it, they'll get or actually view it and vote on it. So I have a lot of support. I don't have anybody that's really saying you can't do it. I know it's a distraction. Everybody, my wife is, that's the biggest thing. My mother and my wife and my father and my uncle, they're very supportive. And I have cousins and friends that they cheer me on. Cheer me on. And
do they help you produce?
Yeah, to a certain extent. And as far as I say, you're putting the word out there, passing out flyers. That's a form of producing.
Sure.
I had a couple of friends that gave me some gave me some money. They gave me $1,500 to get post production, or they loaned me $1,500 to get post production done. Some childhood friends. I have to also give a plug out to the Hollywood Black Film Festival here on the West Coast.
Yeah.
I've worked with them as a marketing director up until the beginning of this year, and the whole staff is incredible. They've been very supportive. Tanya Kersey is the executive director, and Jacqueline Blaylock is the director of programming. And they've been very supportive and trying to guide me in the right direction as far as filmmaking. So I have to give a shout out to them before we get off. And actually, their festival is going to be in October 2nd through the 6th.
Right.
And their website is www.hdff.org. So
let me make a suggestion. If you could help us out, and which would help you out, at the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website, there is an events calendar. And what I'd like to suggest for you to do is every time you have an event, an opening, anything that's coming up, and including, even, like a film festival or whatever, if you could put it on the calendar at the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website, that would be great because, we have a lot of people out on the West Coast who belong to the site and check it out. And what would be great is, maybe you're going to have your film someplace and you may be there. Membership can just take a look at, I have a free weekend this weekend. Take a look and see, and there you are, and that way you might be able to get some more synergy. It certainly wouldn't hurt. When I get ready to travel, that's what I'm going to do. As soon as I get this ankle bracelet off and start going to other states, I'm going to check out that calendar because I do want to see what other members are doing. And obviously, you got a pretty cool thing going on, and you have a great career that you're already into. It's not something you can even say, you've got great potential, you're going to do great things. You're already doing good things. And
well, I appreciate
No, I'm serious. And I think you should share that. I mean, if you have a screening of any of your work, go ahead and put it on there so that the people local to you or people who may be traveling in your area will be able to check your work out. I mean, I would love to be able to come out there and visit you, and who knows, with this feature that I want to do, if I have to come out that way, and you have 15 minutes to spare, I'd like to stop by, say hi, and talk to you about the industry. But let as many people know. I mean, obviously it builds synergy. It gets more people checking your work out. I've already got Hysteria queued up for once we're done. I want to watch that. So that would be great. And as for, I mean, it's got to be great having a good support staff, and not support like production assistants, but to have your mom in it like that. Whether she's crazy or not, she did the role. I'm sure she probably had fun. Didn't she have fun doing it?
She had a blast with it.
Exactly, and for her to be able to do that and say, "Yeah, I'm helping my baby do a film," that has got to be pretty cool for her and for you,
It's an awesome feeling, and she did a really great job. You'll see, she did an excellent job, that's my girl right there. She got my back 100%.
And your son is how old?
My son is 10 years old.
And has he been in any of your work yet?
No, not yet.
Does he have any desire?
He might. I think he has more desire for being behind the camera.
Really?
Yeah. He might have a little desire. Right now he loves dinosaurs. I've kind of been showing him some things as far as writing and how to get a script ready and outlining and log line, and so we're looking at maybe shooting like a little dinosaur movie for fun. Take some of his he's got a lot of dinosaur pieces, dinosaur toys and stuff, and look back at those little dinosaurs. It's something for fun, dinosaur, just to see. He loves dinosaurs, and so yeah, you never know. Whatever he wants to do. I put things out there, for him and see if he likes it and see if it sticks, and he does. I support him. So. Well,
I mean, he obviously digs what his daddy is doing. Otherwise, he wouldn't be thinking about the behind the camera thing. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Just don't make him act in a movie like never mind. I was going to mention After Earth, but.
Well, you're a very bad man.
Yeah, I am a bad man, but you know what? I'm an honest man. Nobody can ever say they don't know where William stands. Okay, and so let's look a little bit further ahead. We still got a little bit of time. You've mentioned that you've got a handful of projects that you're looking to bring forward over the next 5 years or so. It seems like 5 years. Someone thinks I'm hating on After Earth. I'm not hating on it. I just think it's, well, never mind. Where do you see yourself maybe 10 years from now? You're, still making films, still at the helm, or do you think you'll be doing more producing, or is it just too hard for you to tell?
It's hard for me to tell. I would, there's films I haven't made yet, and I would say knowing how, it's difficult for anyone to get a film made.
Right.
And being that, I'm looking at doing sci-fi stuff, so I'll be still working on, when I'm 60, I'm 50 now, so when I'm 60, I'll still be at the helm directing and writing. I look forward to that. So.
Well, Clint Eastwood is 91, and he's still doing. Well, I don't know how old he is, but I mean, it's not a thing that you can't do as an older person.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I plan to have a long career. I'm almost at the end of my corporate career, so I hopefully I'll be able to retire from there in the next 4 to 5 years, and then pursue filmmaking full time. So that would be really a great thing. So that's my 4-year plan. I got a lot of stuff that I'm working on right now and trying to fine tune it. And I have some people, I have some connections out there. I'm just waiting for the right time to make those connections or use the connections.
Okay. And then let me if your son decides he wants to get into the whole production thing, it almost sounds like you're going to have a nice piece of business to hand down to him.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I would love to do that. That'd be great. I have about 10 projects on the slate, so it'd be incredible if he can direct one of those. I would love it.
And what's his name?
His name is Malachi, Gerald Malachi.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Want to give him his props,
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then you could go back and tell him, well, I mentioned you on the radio.
Yeah, William, Big Brother William.
And you know what? The other thing is that this show, very shortly after it's done, will be up on as a podcast, so he can listen later, and that'll be available very shortly after we're finished. So,
fantastic.
When you think, let's talk the big picture. When you think about a black or actually a sci-fi movie that you would like to do, are you thinking really big? Are you thinking? I mean, and can you give us a little bit of an idea? You don't have to give away the plot, because I know that those sorts of things you want to keep close. But are you thinking more mainstream? Are you thinking predominantly black characters? Are you what's your thinking in doing a production of that size?
Well, I'm thinking a predominantly black. As with my future sci-fi piece that takes place in Africa, I am thinking of a predominantly black cast. Actually, all black cast. I'm thinking about Twiddle Etchport. Hope I pronounced that right. I kill his name every time I say it. But Twiddle Etchport, Jimon Hantu. Who else? Can't think of the other lady. She played in James Bond. She was she played Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, okay.
Naomi Harris. So I'm thinking about her, those as the main characters. And basically they're just in the position to save Africa. That's the plot. Basically they come together to save Africa. And
sure.
Those are some people I would love to work with. I love to work with David. I'm about to kill his name too. He played in Planet of the Apes. He was the bad guy in Planet of the Apes. David Oyelowo or something like that. I can't pronounce that last name, but he was in Red Tails as well. He's a really good actor.
I can't pronounce his name either.
Yeah,
as soon as I see it, I can say it, but I
can't see it. And so that's my dream list for this one particular film. Also like to get the guy, I think his name is Peter. He was in 300. He was the African that got kicked into the pit. Imagine that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. The big tall brother.
Yeah. So those are the five core I would love to work with and bring onto this project, my Future Africa project. But I see that maybe 5 years from now, given the budget, and but it's interesting because quickly talk about budgets, and District 9 I think was made for $30 million,
right?
And that's by Neil. I think it's Golden Cap or something like that. I'm bad with names. But this latest one, Elysium, I'm looking at the budget. It's at $115 million. So I'm wondering, I think District 9 was made in England, but they made it in South Africa, I think. And it just goes to show where you make a film, location, and having the union involved really changes the scale of your production. So many things to consider when you're making a sci-fi film. I think sometimes the budgets are inflated, and there are ways around it. It's just finding those ways. And so you can make, a $30 million film or a $50 million film in Africa might cost $100 million here or $150 million here.
Right, and I've heard that there's actually a decent amount of film funding money coming out of Nigeria. Could be from all those dead princes, who left all that money in the bank, and all you have to do is send them your bank account information, and you get a piece of it. But I mean, all kidding aside, though, a friend of mine here who does film funding said that he has gotten a good deal of funding from over there, and that speaks well of expanding the industry.
Yes, it does, and I'm glad you're bringing this up, because another thing that I really wanted to do is just reach across the continent and form some alliances with our African brothers. There's a lot of talent over there. I'm in touch with one brother from Cameroon. His name is Henry Obama. He does martial arts. Black martial artist, and he's very ambitious. He has a lot of action movies that he's written. I think he's performed in some. He's working on some comic books. There's a couple of others that I've met through the internet, through Facebook, and Hysteria has been very. It's like a movie that keeps on giving, because people see it and they want to talk to me and I form relationships. So people say, "Wow, you spent $15,000 on that," and I think it was well worth it, because I formed a lot of relationships.
Sure.
I get to talk to you. What an honor and privilege to talk to you.
Stop it. Stop. Let me wait. Let me be entirely honest with you. As I sit here and talk to you, it would be an honor for me to work with you. And one of these days, very soon, I would like to get in touch with you and talk to you about the possibility of doing some projects together, because I don't have a problem with collaborating with somebody else. And like I said, I'm much newer at this than you are. I would learn a ton, and that's pretty important to me. And I'm very fortunate that I managed to glom onto and create a story that's never been done before, which is not an easy thing to do. So I'm serious. You joke about this, but it has been an honor, and we're just about out of time here.
Right. No, but honestly,
go ahead.
Yeah, I do joke, but I am serious. I mean, it's really good to meet you and talk to you on the phone, and I think Black Science Fiction Society. And I think Jarvis, he's a great guy. I mean, he's been running this organization for 5 years. So my hat's off for him for all that he's done. I mean, he's an inspiration to me. He keeps me going to see that he's still at it, and I think we can all, as artists, we can draw strength from each other, inspiration from each other. And there's a lot of brothers out there. Milton Davis, he's one. He's a hard-working brother. He's got his sword and soul going. And Battlegoon, I don't know. Sorry if I pronounced his name wrong, but he's another brother that keeps me going. There's so many out there on Facebook that's working hard and trying to make it happen. And so much great work out there. It's motivating. It's inspirational. So
I could not have imagined this community until I got here. I mean, when I was referred to the site by somebody else, and to find all of these Black creatives here who are doing so many cool things, and I feel like one of the luckiest people on the site, because every Friday I get to talk to somebody else, and talking to you, all of the different people who are actually out there doing great work and really work hard to do the best that they possibly can. Right. That makes this so worthwhile for me. I hate to draw this to a close, and if you could just stay after the recording's over, we'll cover a couple things. But I do want to thank you for spending this time with me. I hope it was as painless for you as it was for me. I had a ball listening to you, man.
Yeah, well, thank you, William. I had a great time talking to you. Better than I expected. No, I'm just kidding. But no, all honesty, man. The time just flew by. I thought I only had like an hour, and here we are at almost 2.5 hours, and it's been great dialogue with you, and I just feel really privileged to meet with you. And yeah, I'd love to sit down with you and let's talk and see what we got. What can we create together? That'd be beautiful.
Yeah.
Thing,
Yeah. All right. Well, hang on after the recording's over, and then our peerless leader, Jarvis Sheffield, the creator of BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. Why don't you go ahead and take us home, sir?
You guys are terrific, and you had me over here blushing, so I even got even darker just as you were talking and giving me those kind words. But thank you, as always, for coming on the show and supporting the show and sharing your experience and your knowledge. And thanks, Will, for having a great hosting presence, as always. I'm telling you, I'm getting high on my own supply here with you guys coming on and sharing all this valuable information. You know, each week we have somebody on from the site, and you guys are just, expanding our reach. You're expanding our knowledge base. We're making connections and moving projects forward, and I love to hear that stuff. I really.
I want to say I'm don't mean to cut you off, but I'm here for you, man. I love what you're doing, and to be honest, I wouldn't be here right now, talking to you right now, if it wasn't for you, for your perseverance. So, you've been doing this for 5 years or so. How long have you been going at this?
This year's 5 years. 5 years.
So, hats off to you, brother, for maintaining and not giving up. And actually, I was like member 35, 37, 38 or something. And
I remember.
Yeah. So I've been with you for a little while, and I've seen you grow, and all that you do is a really blessing to be a part of this. So, I'm really, really honored and privileged that you thought enough of me to invite me to your show. So, hats off to you, brother.
Well, that's likewise, man. I appreciate it. And I'm gonna log off, and I'll probably be back over on the main site in about 10 minutes, because I'm actually out and about outside Crystals right now using their internet.
Well, you do what you have to do to keep it going.
You got to make it happen.
You got to make it happen. That's how you got to do it. Resourceful.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, before you sign off, I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to remind everybody that we're here every Friday night, and that we start at 9 Eastern Time, and as I say, follow it around the clock for the other time zones. And for those of you who know other people who are interested, please tell them, please get them to try to either listen live or definitely check out the podcast, because we've had so many good guests that there's something for everybody. So I want to thank everybody for listening and wish everybody a good night.
All right, good night, everybody. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
See, they didn't stop the recording. So I guess, Gerald, we're going to have to hang up. I'm going to drop you a note over at the at BSFS.
Okay.
Because I'm serious about keeping in touch. I do have a feature that I'm going to do next year, but I want to talk to you about, maybe the adaptation of my trilogy to film, and we'll catch up later, okay?
Yeah, I think I can give you my number now.
Okay, if you don't mind everybody hearing it.
Well, hey, someone might call me to want to give me some money.
You know what? There you go. Okay, go ahead.
It's 310. 462. 4834.
All right, and when's a good time to call you?
Let's see.
During the week?
Yeah, this week, yeah. Call me Monday, I would say 10:30.
Your time?
Yeah, 10:30 my time.
Okay, that'll be like, 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 okay.